Hello, everyone, and welcome to Doing It Different. My guest today is Wade. Wade, thank you so much for joining me today. How are you really doing?
It's fabulous. I'm not in my normal location. I'm here in Sedona, Arizona, which is one of my favorite places in the whole world, and getting out in nature and on the trails and all that sort of stuff. So I'm pretty happy camper right now.
Oh, that's amazing. I'm also not at home. I live in Austin, Texas, but I'm on Bainbridge Island up in Washington. And again, nature, I'm jumping in the ocean every day. It's been a spectacular month up here. So I agree. It's good to get out and explore this time of year. So I
Sure.
would love to hear a little bit about your work. You have an incredible company that I use and love, and I'd love to hear you share a little bit about it.
Yeah. Well, by optimizers, we're coming up almost to 2 decades that we've been operational. It was founded by myself and Matt Gallant, who is my business partner, and we were both personal trainers in the fitness industry, and he had been training professional athletes and kind of the elites, and I had been a bodybuilding champion in Canada, and we had very different philosophies in a lot of ways, but we came together specific. He's a keto guy, I'm a plant-based guy, and we would debate all sorts of aspects. But one of the things that we came to the conclusion is much of dietary selection and much of great health, it has to do with not what you eat, but what you digest, absorb, and utilize. And there's a major variance in both genetics, proclivities, ability to adhere to a program, lifestyle that will influence that. And that there's a confluence of forces which are disrupting our digestive systems. In fact, the medical industry has reported that 12% of the emergency hospital visits in America are related to gastrointestinal issues. 100 million people are suffering from gastrointestinal issues on a given day, and 25% of those are on permanent prescription medications. This is a disaster, and it's growing exponentially. So we decided to found a company. I had run into my own digestive systems after the Mr. Universe contest. I gained 42 pounds of fat and water in 11 weeks.
Wow.
And it's because I had destroyed the functioning of my digestive system following a performance-based diet. And this is very common for athletes. A lot of people, new mothers will start to experience all sorts of strange digestive things or whatever. People, as they age, run into it, becomes the number one conversation once you get past 50 years old. And we decided that we would find and found a company that was based on scientific solutions to address what goes wrong in the digestive issue. And it came down to there's three areas that particularly go wrong: enzymatic capabilities of the person, hydrochloric acid, which diminishes for most people as they age, and the state of your microbiome, essentially probiotics. And we founded our company back then working on those three angles. And over the years, that has expanded into an array of solutions for virtually every digestive system condition that people have. And then we've expanded into nervous system optimization, brain optimization, because we're still high performance guys at heart. We got to fix the foundation, but we want to turn on the turbos. We want to be at our best ever. And luckily, we've been able to do it and become kind of a household name in human optimization.
Yeah, it's so true. And some of your supplements, particularly magnesium and gluten guardian, are like go-tos. I travel with the gluten supplement everywhere I go. And when I eat out, I use it, and magnesium breakthrough every single night. I love it. So we'll definitely get more and more into that. But I would love to hear a little bit about your health. And I know that you created some of these supplements and things to address foundations. But what are your foundations of health? What are things like your non-negotiables that you do daily?
Well, if you're going to have robust level health, so you need to be able to recognize that health is the responsibility of each individual. It is not the responsibility of your doctor. It is not the responsibility of your government. It is not the responsibility of your spouse, of your kids, of your parents, or of any other medical institution. That is number one. And number two is if we follow the standard American diet and we live the standard American lifestyle, which will be common amongst many of our peers or influential people, we know that the disability adjusted life expectancy in this country is 60 years old. In other words, you will have a chronic condition that will debilitate the quality of your life for probably the next 20 years if you get to live that long, with an average life expectancy around 80. So 25% of your life is going to be in an increasingly compromised state, dependent on an array of chemicals that treat the symptoms of disease. That is what the New England Journal of Medicine says. We don't cure disease, we treat the symptoms of it. And so the first thing is people have to recognize is that you cannot outsource your health to your doctor. Your doctor there is to make decisions that on where you are right now to alleviate the conditions or symptoms of your life. That's it. That's their job. And they have a very narrow band of tools: drugs, surgery. That's about it. Mm-hmm. That's the options.
Or waiting. Those three. I think
right.
Doctors just say, wait it out. You're in pain. We can't do anything.
Right. Yeah. We'll give you some painkillers that you get addicted to. Or, so all that aside. Now, I'm not there to throw doctors under the bus. They're very pressed for time. They're really understanding. It's the misappropriation of responsibility onto them is the issue that people have to do. Next thing. Okay, so we've established that. So, what do I do? How do I take control of my health? I've created it, and by the way, at the end of this, you can just go on my site and they can grab the Awesome Health course. It's 84 days where I break down the absolute musts in your lifestyle and how to integrate them systematically based on time, effort, energy, and resources available. Now, the first three, to go back to circle around to your question, the first three things that are not negotiable are air, water, and exercise. In other words, I think the easiest way to improve your health, your sense of well-being, is to cultivate a proper practice of breathing. And you can go to a yoga class, you can go to a qigong class, you can go to a medical breathing professional, which the medical community has breathing professionals. So this is well proven that you can change a variety of conditions and improve your health just by learning how to breathe. Second thing, almost every single person that ever came into my holistic health clinic was in a state of chronic dehydration. What is that? That means that they were so dehydrated that it would literally take weeks for them to hydrate properly at the cellular level. I'm not talking about just drinking water, because there's extracellular water, which we feel is bloating and inflammation and these type of things. And there's intracellular water, which makes the cells actually work properly, code proteins, remove toxins, transmit electrical current in the body. So spending time on high quality hydration and making that a part of your life, as well as recognizing the symptoms of dehydration. And if you're thirsty, you're way beyond dehydration. You're in a chronic state of dehydration. You should never be thirsty. You want to be always hydrated properly. And then the third thing is daily exercise. And everyone always goes, well, what's the best exercise? And the one that you'll do is a good start. Like, some people like biking, some people like hiking, some people like lifting weights, some people like doing yoga. We live in a very technologically advanced world that have reduced the requirements of living physically to such a low extent, it has now become a problem. So we didn't have to worry about exercise throughout all of history until the last 100 years came along, because you had to carry wood, you had to chop down trees, you had to hunt for food, you had to garden. Just washing your clothes was a crisis, and which required massive amounts of manual labor. Well, we don't do that now, and the human body works really well when it moves every day. Air, water, and exercise are the non-negotiables, and they're really inexpensive. If you look at the time invested in those three things as a common practice, we could change the trajectory, not only the quality of life, we could reduce the dependency on the medical system. We could reduce the cost of the medical costs that have been translated across lost hours, lost work, lost time, lost loved ones, all that sort of stuff. And we could extend the healthy life age and maybe even people's longevity overall, just by those three things. You don't need a supplement. You don't need anything else. It's very, very, very simple. And people say, well, oh, I've heard that before. Yes, but if you can't do it right now, you need to get someone to kick your butt and get you on those things. And, for example, I see a lot of my friends are doing this course called the 75 Hard. Well, one of the things that they do is they have water. They have to drink like 5 big liters of water every day or whatever. It's like, that's a requirement. And my friends are like, I feel amazing. And they have to exercise twice a day and they have to read something for 30 minutes a day. Well, virtually everybody on that program sees massive health benefits from doing those things. Well, so it's not rocket science. And then after that, we can get into all the other things. Yeah. So, and that's all covered, by the way, the specifics and the nuances is covered in the course that I give away for free, because I know people don't know and it's very confusing out there.
It is confusing. I want to circle back to hydration because you said a few things that I think are really important. When you think about the best water you can possibly put in your body, are you doing reverse osmosis? Are you doing spring water? What is really important to you in terms of water to make sure that your actual cells are hydrated?
Great question. So there is I'm going to go a little technical and then I'm going to go non-technical. So to understand hydration, there's intracellular fluid and extracellular fluid, as I indicated before. Your cells operate at an osmotic pressure around 80 dynes. It's measured in dynes. So when you consume water, you want water that has a lower osmotic pressure than 80 dynes because it will get inside the cell. Otherwise, it stays outside the cell and you have that bloated feeling. Now, why is that important? Well, if you go online, I've investigated now over 200 different types of water. And you're like, well, come on, wait, what do you mean? And what I would say is that water has 4 distinct qualities. It can exist as a solid, a liquid, a gas, and a crystal. It's the 4th stage that was proved by Dr. Pollack. Water has 440,000 information panels. The reason that you know where your keys are or your address or what your name is because of the storage capabilities of the crystalline structure within water. So there is a memory component inside of water, which is fascinating. And we're not taught to think to these type of things. And so imagine a water molecule as not just a chemical of H2O, but as a storage device for information. So if I put light into the water, if I put frequencies into the water, if I add minerals into the water, if I add electrons into the water, if I add other elements into the water, I change, imagine it's like a DVD disc, that I now have changed the information on the water and that water will do different things. And once you understand that, then the conversations around, is reverse osmotic water better than ionized water? Is deionized water? Is alkaline water? All of those things are just elements of putting different information, like you would put a documentary versus a horror film versus a sports film versus a drama on a DVD. So it ends the debate about which water is better. What I will say is this: you can measure how well you are hydrated. There's a couple ways of looking at how healthily you're staying hydrated. One is called an electrointerstitial water scan, which I've used. It was really put forth, the U.S. Olympic team, I think it was Dr. Carmichael back about 15, 20 years ago, started using this extensively to see the hydration levels of different organs of the body with his high performance athletes, especially as they were traveling or going to altitude, because this affects osmotic pressure. The second thing that you can look at is your Z-score, or your phase angle. So you can go to a bioimpedance lab like Bulletproof Labs or something like that, and they'll look at the phase angle of your cells. In other words, how well the angle of your cells is which will determine how well they absorb, utilize, and nutrients and excrete toxins. So if you can get something, between 5 and 7 for men, and I think it's 4 and 6 for women, you're doing pretty good. Personally, I'm well over 7. And the reason I am is because I use a pre-filtration process. So all kinds of membrane filtration I think are best if you're in a city. And that's because you can reduce the chemicals that are in the water. So that could be reverse osmosis, or it could be other membrane technology. I would suggest that you reintroduce minerals if you're using reverse osmosis, because it can strip the mineral, and that can be problematic. And then afterwards, I run my water through an ionizer. And the reason I do that is because they're called, if you look at on the scientific papers, it's called reduced water. Well, why is it called reduced water? You can run an electrical current and split the water to an alkaline stream and an acidic stream. And the alkaline stream will then have a lower osmotic pressure because of the electrolysis process and be much more readily absorbed by your cells.
Cool. I love hearing that. Everyone has their own, system and preference when it comes to the type of water they're
Yeah.
drinking. So that's always one of the most interesting questions and answers that I can ask personally.
And I try water all the time. I drink spring water. Like I try it, and I'll do experiments on water. I love it. It's a fascinating topic. I've been studying it for 2 decades,
Yeah.
and I'm still learning about water. It's fascinating. And I think there's a lot more to learn.
Totally. And then going back to your other foundation, the first one, breathing correctly is so huge. And I think most people don't understand that they actually aren't breathing in a way that is fueling their body and oxygenating their body and creating that nitric oxide. So I am wondering, do you have a breathwork practice or anything that you do to really make sure you're breathing properly enough and that your body is being truly oxygenated on a tissue level?
Yes, absolutely. So every morning I begin my day with what is some people would call a pranic exercise or a qigong practice. I get out, I run energy to the various body parts of my body. I do double exhale, double inhale, breathing apparatus with various movements. I also do a stomach pump exercise where I'm pumping my stomach in and out while I'm, exhaling. And then I go into a more formalized meditation where I use several different breathing practices that will change timing of breaths, of the intake and the outtake of the breath. So you can do different types of breathing. Then I'll do, like, let's say if I'm doing cryotherapy, I might do box breathing, which is like, your equal parts on the inhale, hold, exhale, hold. And you can start to recognize all these different methodologies. And then you can get into Qigong breathing, which is you're using sounds as well as parts of the body. It becomes pretty wild. And, you can also do, more aggressive stuff like the Wim Hof stuff or some of the Qigong breaths where you literally start doing this and create vibratory energy. The whole body's just vibrating, and it can be quite euphoric. I do suggest finding a breathing practitioner to help you with it. You can get yourself into a little trouble if you start going too crazy on it. But it is extremely powerful. And yes, I do breathing practice consciously every day. As well as when I train cardio, I practice nose breathing in specific so that I'm breathing through my nose, which is a superior way to oxygenate the tissues of the body.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I wanted to switch gears and talk a little bit about the supplement industry as a whole, because you know it well. You've been in it for over, 2 decades, like you said. And there are a lot of some supplement companies who are not doing it right and are putting a lot of junk in their products and are kind of misleading. And so as a whole, and when you look at the industry, what do you think people need to be aware of?
Great. Thank you for asking me that. And I've been in the supplement industry much longer than that. I've worked on every single level, from first being a consumer of supplements, then being a sponsored athlete, working in a warehouse that distributed supplements, working in a retail place, owning my own retail place, being a consultant for development, and then eventually building my own company. So I literally know the industry inside out on virtually every level. And I would say I would classify I would use Pareto's law. So 80% of the companies are absolutely worthless. Okay? They're just absolute charlatans. They're people built on margins. They're people built on very poorly developed formulas that are just a mishmash of maybes thrown into a bottle because of whatever. And it's complete profiteering. And you should avoid those companies. Any company that doesn't offer you a full 100% money back guarantee on your product, that's the first sign. Don't buy them because they need to stand by your product. Then you get to that 20%. I think you can go hyper Pareto's law. And in that 20%, you're going to have the mid-range products that you'll find on store shelves that are maybe okay, maybe not the best. Maybe they got some elements in it that aren't good, but they got some good ones. And it's kind of okay. And people say, well, how do you feel when you take that? Well, I think it's working. That's usually the answer. And then there's the 4%. The last four of the, so if you go 80-20 and 80-20, then you got 4% of the guys. Now, those 4% companies are amazing companies. They're usually founder story. The founder had a problem and they went on some quest to figure out what the problem was. They ran through all of those mediocre to terrible companies, figured it out on their own, started sharing it with a small group of people out of their house, out of their garage, out of whatever. And then they started a company and fought through it and eventually became a leading brand. That's typically the story of great companies. And I recommend all kinds of great companies and have great friends in the industry that produce products that we don't produce. And so when Bioptimizers came in, Matt and I decided, we understood all these things. First off, we were going to pick categories that we felt that we could make the best product in that category, or we wouldn't touch it. The second thing is we would never settle with what we produced. We would always consider how we could make it better. And making it better means making it more effective. Okay? You always want to make it more effective. You want to make it more affordable for people, right? And that's always a challenge, right? Because usually, and we would never sacrifice quality. In other words, reducing any chance of contaminants, other elements, fillers, binders, coloring it, like all these things that really suck and can cause problems. We just said, well, eliminate all that, and we're not going to put a price on the production side of it. We're going to put a performance standard on the production of it. And then once we produce the product that we will work, we put a guarantee around it that if it doesn't work for people, then we just give them their money back so that they can because even if you make a great product, people might select the wrong product for their situation. So we want to respect everybody that's using supplements because you can't be fully healthy without supplementing your diet. All diets have deficiencies and advantages. All individuals are different, so their DNA means, like for example, I don't methylate B12 very well, so I need very special type of B12 for me to get my B12, right? Some people it's lipases, and some people they don't absorb vitamin C very well. And once you know this, then you can target your supplementation so that you can offset the limitations in your diet. And so that's how we built our brand, our company. And it was a slow build. And it was a lot of struggle because we were on the high end of pricing. But eventually, the who's who in the industry started to recognize and use and advocate for our brand. And now we just hit the Inc. 500. We're the third fastest growing supplement company in the United States. Wow. Largely in part because of the strength of our product quality. And so I'm delighted and excited because at the end of the day, I look at every package that goes out. I track this every day. And I built the customer service system. And I go, every package that goes out has 4 promises. A promise is that the product works, a promise that it gets delivered to their house, a promise that they know how to use it, and a promise if for whatever reason it doesn't work, that they get their money back. And I look at that every month and I want to keep that growing. And it's been a rocket ride, especially in the last 5 years.
Well, that's so awesome. Well, let's talk about a few of your products. I want to talk a little bit about Gluten Guardian, and I also
Yep.
want to make sure we talk about Magnesium Breakthrough. And then if we have time, maybe we'll add in one more. But let's start with Gluten Guardian. Why is this product unique? How should people use it? Who is it for?
Well, my mom makes the best bread in the whole world. I mean, it's amazing. Okay, she's 75 years old and she breaks out the bread and rolls, man. It's good. Now, unfortunately, there's a problem with that because literally on one side of my whole family, they have problems with gluten. And I'm a halfer on the gluten tolerance level, so it's not as bad as someone who's like celiac, but I do get bloated or whatever, even though I love it. And so I was always, and that gets worse as you get older. So everybody has a certain amount of resistance to gluten, and it gets progressively worse as your enzymatic capacity goes down. And so I don't eat much bread, but I'm thinking, how do I eat bread? My mom's, because I can't resist it, and how do all my family members deal with this? Because it's such a great thing. So I started researching on, well, how come some people can do this? And it turns out that dipeptidyl peptidase is an enzyme that's made by about a third of the population, and the rest of the population do not make that enzyme. And that is the enzyme that actually breaks down gluten. Dipeptidyl peptidase 4 to be specific. So I was like, well, I see that this will work. Could we make a product that has dipeptidyl peptidase 4 in what we call therapeutic qualities? And so we figured out what that was, and it is the highest amount of dipeptidyl peptidase 4 that you can give someone without a prescription. And so it's great. And you just take this, you take a 3-4 caps before you have a gluten experience, and you just don't have the problems anymore. It's really that simple. And people love it, and it's great. I'm saying it's not a cure for, say, celiac, but for people who are sensitive to gluten, it's a game changer. You can, have your cake and eat it too, as so to speak.
That's so awesome. Yeah, I definitely took it with me to Europe. And I had some bread for the first time in like 6 years using this supplement, and it was really helpful. And then when I was pregnant, I was able to tolerate gluten a lot better, but I would still take a few of the gluten guardians, and again, just change the experience for me.
Yeah, and the thing is gluten is in everything now. Like it permeates in restaurants. So people who are sensitive to it, what they're reporting with us is they can go out to dinner and take some gluten guardians and not get cross contamination in their meals either. And that's really great because it's really tough. I really feel for people that really suffer from that. I have family members that really suffer from that, and they've been able to find relief, and that makes me feel happy when I can help
Yeah,
people.
absolutely. Okay, so my favorite product that y'all make is Magnesium Breakthrough.
Yeah,
And
that's
it's a really
awesome.
special magnesium product. And I recommend it to everyone. I take it every night, even though I'm not really sleeping well right now. It's still helpful. I have a 12-week-old keeping me up. But tell me about Magnesium Breakthrough. And, there are a lot of magnesium products on the market. How come you guys decided that you wanted to put your foot in the magnesium game as well?
Again, necessity is the mother of invention. So Matt and I are kind of crazy, athletic, serial entrepreneurs. A number of years ago, I was running 3 companies, training twice a day, and I got myself into and living in a foreign country, and I was subjected to some mold in the environment, and it was really stressing my system out, and also in high EMFs, which deplete magnesium. And I did a SpectraCell test, and people can do that. I highly recommend doing a SpectraCell test. It will actually determine what nutrients that you are missing in your cells, as well as what you have difficulty absorbing and utilizing. And it turned out that I was hyper deficient in magnesium, and I thought that was odd because I was taking magnesium. So we decided, like, well, let's figure this out. We got into the magnesium thing, and I'll refer to a fellow by the name of Charles Poliquin. So he was like the trainer of trainers. He coached gold medalists in 27 different sports. And I attended some lectures with Charles. Brilliant guy. He spoke, I think, I don't know, a dozen languages because he would look at research in different areas. And one of the things that I would look back at my notes, and for the stress that his professional and Olympic athletes were under, he would use 4 different types of magnesium because he said that magnesium was uptaken by different parts of the body, and he had the research to prove it. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I never heard that before. So, well, the research was a little bit older, and there was all these other research papers with different types of magnesium. So it was like, well, which is better, taurate or malate or orotate or chelate, or what are all, like, which ones utilized by the body? So Matt and I went out and bought every single magnesium type there was on the market. And we started taking them both first individually and see how much we could take before we got the runs. That's breaking the GI barrier. And, when you take some magnesiums like citrate, you get the runs pretty quick. And if you take other magnesiums like sucrosomial, you can absorb a lot of that magnesium. And then if you start stacking the different types of magnesium together, you could, number one, get a wider benefit because it's involved in over 350 different processes inside the body. And it's the most efficient nutrient in North American soil, by the way. And we're subjected to, the more you deal with screens, blue light, and electromagnetic pollution, the more magnesium you drain out of the system, which is interesting. And so we've eventually came up and we tested it with our research team. We have a research team in Bosnia, a professional partnership with Birch International University. We have 15 PhDs and master students who run tests on all this stuff. And we were able to come up with a combination of the most effective magnesiums, as well as the elements like humic and fulvic acid, B6 is manganese, to make it more absorbable and utilizable by the body. We could test this. And sure enough, we did all that. And guess what? All my stress and anxiety that had cultivated, my horrible sleep problems, my inability to tolerate any caffeinated products, all went away in a very short period of time. So we decided we would sell this. And we were not prepared for what happened. There was just this massive groundswell of people taking it, and these testimonies came in. I can sleep better. My PMS, I don't have PMS anymore. I'm not cramping. My HRV scores went up. I'm sleeping, but it just kept, my blood sugar levels have dropped. The crazy stuff, and you're going, wow, you know that magnesium's involved in these things. And different types of magnesium work, but when people were able to take all of the magnesiums, I believe where they were depleted for that individual, that got solved. And that's why we've had such a crazy range of testimonials on that product. And it's become one of our best-selling products of all time for the company.
Yeah, I have a friend who will show Aura Ring scores completely change on nights that he takes that and nights that he doesn't. And yeah, I don't track my sleep that closely anymore, but I do notice a difference when I take it and feel more rested in the morning. Definitely. What is another product? I mean, I really like the Masszyme, but do you have a product that is like your go-to, can't live without, use every single day?
Well, I do use Masszymes. It's enzymes for the masses. It's 17 different enzymes that's in the body. It's just the all-encompassing enzyme for just about everybody. But I think I would say that P3OM, so our research facility, we have a PhD in microbiome, and she has tested P3OM, which is a cultured, specialized version, we got a patent for it, of L. plantarum that's gone through a mutation process. We basically throw it in a toxic soup, run a sine wave through it. A small percentage of those, 2 or 3%, will survive. We grow them on special mediums, and these bacteria, we were granted a patent because they have I can't even say what the patent is. We put it on the website because they'd shut our site down. It's that potent. I've had people on the floor with food poisoning. They take a handful of P3OM. It's gone in 30 minutes. I mean, ready to go to the hospital to I feel totally fine. I don't get sick. In the last 15 years, no, I guess it's 18 years now since we started that product. In the last 18 years, I got sick once. I got COVID. That's it. That was the only thing I've gotten in 18 years.
Wow.
And so that was interesting. And it's been great because it really kicks the butts of the bad guys that escape your immune system, and it really bolsters that. And in the lab, what they've been able to see, it is so resistant. It's resistant to everything. This thing is the Navy SEALs of probiotics. That's what we always corner it, and it really is very effective. People love it. I take that every single day. And then lately, I've been really on to our sub brand, which is called Nutopia, and we have a thing called Collagenius. I have the vegetarian private version for myself, but everybody who likes collagen and mushrooms. We get 1.2 pounds of mushrooms in every serving.
Wow.
It's really intense, and so it's an amazing BDNF producer. I'll get you some sent out because as a new mom, one of the things that you get a depletion of BDNF with the lack of sleep and stuff, and it's amazing. Like you feel great every day. You have that every morning. I do it twice a day. I do it in the morning. And if you want to have really good lucid dreams, take it before you go to bed and you just have amazing dream state. So I really, really love that's my new favorite that we came out with. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I have so enjoyed talking to you, and I want to thank you for being here and just sharing your excitement for health and what you do with everyone. It's so cool to see. And so, yeah, thank you for creating products that I use and love, and I appreciate this conversation.
Great stuff. And for the listeners, if they can go check out Bioptimizers, get the Awesome Health course. I break down, it's an 84-day course. I take you through that lifestyle components of how you systematically address that. We don't even get to supplements till part number 5. It's called Awesome: Air, Water, Exercise, Sunlight, Optimizers, Mental Beliefs, Attitude, Education, Tension, and Coaching. Get that as your foundation, if nothing else. And then if you want to try a product, then go ahead. Again, work with your naturopathic doctor to determine which ones might be best for you. I think that's a great option, or a nutritional coach. And you're on the right track. You'll be off to the races, and you'll see how great supplementation augments the best life ever.
Yes, and I have a code for BioOptimizers, so see the show notes if you want a 10% discount. Wade, thanks again for being here. I so appreciate it.